invite ahead Kirill in a second. So the reason why, and I will just start the code of conduct section. So basically, a little bit of background. We heard across many communities that there were some instances when some members of the community didn't felt comfortable, and we didn't find ways, or they didn't find ways to resolve the issue with other community members or certain parts of how communities run. And so a small group within and beyond DIF got together with some experts on board to put together a code of conduct, at least a strong first version of a code of conduct that we can use to facilitate a very healthy collaborative work within and beyond our communities, because it's very important that everybody can participate. And we just wanted to make sure that this is the case. And if Kirill is here, maybe you can tell a little bit more about how it was created and what's more or less in it and what could be next steps for the community and for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Balazs. Can you click on the link of the code of conduct and scroll through it while I just talk through a couple highlights? So hi, everyone. My name is Carol Fowler. I sit on the DIF steering committee, and I'm co-founder and CEO with Ori at Transmute. So as Balazs mentioned, at DIF, we know that we're all working collaboratively to progress SSI technologies towards real market adoption. And we also know from research that greater diversity leads to better outcomes and better products, including things like increased profitability and creativity, stronger governance, and better problem-solving abilities. So at DIF, we believe that diversity of perspective is a requirement for building the best identity products that we can. That said, like Balazs also mentioned, disagreement is a necessary agreement or a necessary ingredient towards advancing these technologies. And as we navigate this, many of us in the community felt that we needed a new and improved code of conduct. So the purpose of this new code of conduct is to foster the open and healthy, productive culture at DIF members need to grow and build together. And it's divided into 3 primary sections. The first section further describes the diverse and inclusive community that DIF is aiming to foster with this code of conduct. This second section details the types of conflict and behaviors that might negatively impact our ability to do that. And in many cases, these behaviors actively inhibit progress and silence voices that are critical to consider. And then the final section offers several specific recommendations for peer-to-peer resolution and escalation if that ever becomes necessary. This section is meant to be really tactical and actionable. And then finally, just to reiterate again that this document was written collaboratively by a diverse group of DIF members community over the last several months. We also solicited broader feedback at the recent Internet Identity Workshop during a session specific to that. And the vote to ratify this is currently in progress at the DIF steering committee level. So as soon as it's ratified, hopefully later this week, we'll be able to post it on GitHub. And that way the whole community can review, comment, and adopt it. And just the kind of the final note is that as the industry that we've created together continues to evolve, adherence to this code of conduct, we think will help ensure that we maximize the growth, contribution, and progress. So that's all I had to say on that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kirill. I just want to add one very important information that we're going to release the code of conduct under a license that will enable anyone to further improve or reuse it for their own communities, because we know that this is something that can happen in any communities. This is a document that we created in a way that it's applicable for similarly organized online and, well, normal times offline meetings and communities. So please feel free to adopt it, comment, and let's improve it together. It will be hosted on GitHub and reiterated and shared and mentioned as many times as possible. And we have a next step aspect. Kalia, can I invite you on to talk about what next steps we could do with the code of conduct that's important for like improving the health of our communities?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we articulate in this code of conduct, and this was done in part based on feedback from the community, was to create a group of folks we're calling community advocates, basically peers to support folks who want to raise an issue and don't necessarily know how to do so. So we are looking for volunteers who are willing to play this role in the community, and we're also going to provide some training so that those folks aren't just on their own doing this. So if you already naturally find yourself playing this type of role in technical communities that you're a part of, we'd really love to invite you to raise your hand and be a part of this group. I think the more folks who are in this role, the better, because it's not about just sort of like there's one person to go to about quote unquote code of conduct violations. We're trying to build a more responsive culture to address these things that could become violations well before they are quote unquote violations. And this is part of that strategy. So if you would like to raise your hand and are interested in at least exploring the possibility of going through this, I don't think it'll be a lengthy training, but it will be a training, and you'll be probably on a list somewhere on our site where folks know who to reach out to if they want to get support in helping address any issues that come up. So if you, how is there a form that folks can go fill out, Balazs?
Yep, here, we'll post it in the chat.
Perfect. So if you're open to playing that type of role in the community, please click on that link and let us know.
And generally, I mean, the point of the training isn't just to be useful for DIF working groups. If you're planning on, you know, doing sort of community work in other venues, it might still be a good place to get it. So yeah, don't feel like you are ineligible to sign up for this because you're not currently a chair of a working group in DIF. If you just do other community work, it might be worth expressing interest.
Right, and part of this is we don't want all of the community conflict resolution to land on chair shoulders. So this is part of building like a broader base of community capacity.
Definitely.
So are there any questions about that from folks?
I have a comment, Kalia. Thank you. Yeah. This is awesome. The thing that jumped into my mind, and maybe it's useful for someone else, is if you've ever watched like Congress work, there's parliamentarians that know the procedures for various things, but aren't really necessarily involved in the politics of everything. And someone who's involved in a conflict can ask for the help of a parliamentarian who will help guide them through the necessary steps. And it's kind of like this, right? Like, hey, I've got a problem. I don't know what should really be done about it. Can you help me? And that's a super useful thing, I think, in our community to have. So thanks for all of this, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm very excited about this code of conduct. It's hopefully gonna help a lot on making sure that everything works very smoothly, and also a good sign that the community cares that there are already some signups on the form. So thank you very much. There is not yet a current time yet on what exactly the training is going to be. We are trying to figure out what is the right format, but we will reach out and try to co-create this with those who are signing up. So yeah, please don't hesitate. It's going to be interesting. And I think we can like wrap up the code of conduct, and but I would like to ask everyone to wait for the next about 8 minutes to kickstart the intro, because to keep that on the agenda, if someone only can make it for 1 hour, so that we start on time at 12 p.m. ET or other time zones, other time moments. And maybe we can repost the icebreaker that we started during the first coffee break. It's just a Google Maps where we can drop our pins where we are dialing in from. And by the end of the call, we could have like a global view where the whole community is residing and where we are being able to take part of this call, because it's clear that we are all in different rooms and homes and offices. And also, if anyone has already a topic, I currently do not see Slido or the chat. I'm trying to focus on that everything runs. Are there any good Slido going?
I mean, there were a few comments. There were a few comments in the chat. Is there anyone? So we have a little lag. Not sure whether it's my connection or not. There were a few comments. So we have basically 8 minutes of like free time before we start the formal like intro discussion. But I think it's all general questions or comments. I think before we formally started, there was already like a very set of questions coming up for that. We just want to wait until people, they might join only for specific hours, so that's why we just want to not go. Bring them up, feel free now.
Adrian, I see your hand up.
Yes, does anybody want to say something about the relationship of trust over IP to DIF?
I'm happy to talk about it. So we have, I think what I just mentioned, I think in the welcome section, that I think we worked out really good collaboration efforts with the CCG as well as with ARIS over the last, let's say, 6 months. We have started the same conversations now with the Trust over IP folks. So we had actually a call last week with Drummond and John Jordan and Carol from our side about like how we want to make sure that we don't even start having any divide in the community, but actually bring things together. I don't think we have like the answer yet. I think we started exploring like their focus is clearly around governance and governance structures, governing framework, but they have a working group which is a technical stack working group, and I think that's where we need to make sure that we define the interactions between those two groups. So they said they are not keen to develop any specifications, that they would point to either CCG or to DIF for that work, but just to avoid that any like misunderstandings, and I think we have a clear message to the whole community of where to find what, that we want to write just a one-pager or something else where we can document the joint understanding. So that's kind of work in progress. As I said, I think their focus is really around governance. Our focus is more on the technical interoperability, and therefore it can be very like complementary. I'm also, so just FY, John Jordan was elected a few days ago as the executive director for Trust over IP. He's a community member since many years and a really great guy. So I'm quite optimistic that we find a good way to make sure that these communities equally well work together. Adrian, I'm not sure whether that gave you sufficient concrete answer, but that's kind of where we are.
Thank you. Well, it's for everybody, just I think it's a general question.
No, it's an excellent question, and thanks, Adrian, and thanks, Ruben. Kishore, your hands is the next one.
Hey, everybody, thanks. This is an amazing group, so my first time with the group. The question is actually more on interoperability and how does one get involved in the note that Anil sent a couple of days ago about the different activities happening within the interop group. So the APIs that have been developed on VCs and the credentials handling and some of the automation tests and the emerging specifications. Is that through a single group, interop group, or is it actually you have to be part of all the other groups as well?
I will respond to this. Kishore, I think you will have a good answer in a couple of minutes. We will try to answer this question, but it will be part of the answer. Thank you. It's a good question.
Sure. Thanks.
And
yep.
Anil, your hand is the last, I think, before we would jump into the interop topic.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that that topic was actually raised, if it was appropriate to raise it during the interop working group or not. It sounds like it is, so I think I'm just going to hold off just so that we can do it within that construct rather than out of band. So I'm going to lower my hand.
Perfect. Are there any questions or fun facts for the next 2 minutes, and then we can jump on to start the interop?
Give it 2 Nathans.
So, and I'm not gonna talk for 2 minutes, but we are 98 people. So we are switching between 98 and 97. That's pretty awesome. And I would actually say that it's really good to see that so many of us came together. I went through the email addresses of the signups yesterday to see like who is in there, and the majority of the signups are actually not coming from DIF or sign up with an email address that I'm not familiar with. And I think this is a very good sign that the community is actually trying to come together and resolve the issues that we have within the technology and sometimes within the political frameworks of how these organizations are operating. Because to get to interoperability, we will actually need to work together unless we are creating a new siloed system with newer technology. And it's a pleasure to see that we can put away our misalignments and actually start to work on something that's probably like gonna last longer than many of our companies who are present, and hopefully some will cherish on these technologies. And I'm pretty sure that actually, like, if we deliver it as it's supposed to be, it's gonna be an amazing stack that can support a lot of people. And with that, I would actually go back and start to share my screen again. And
we should maybe stop the recording for a second and then restart it. That might